Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Jay Carion, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are thrilled to have Dr. Jeff Standridge, co-founder and general partner of Cadre Capital Partners and co-founder of Innovation Junkie. Jeff brings over 30 years of global business leadership from his time as vice president at Axiom Corporation to teaching innovation at the University of Central Arkansas. Based in Fayetteville, Arkansas, Cadre Capital Partners, founded in 2018, is redefining early-stage tech investing with unique deal structures and a passion for building venture ecosystems. We'll be exploring his founding story, how Cadre empowers disruptive innovators, and his vision for scaling this impact-driven firm. So let's dive right in. Jeff, welcome to Founders Future.
Jay, it is a pleasure to be here with you. I appreciate you for having me.
Absolutely a pleasure to have you on. So let's start at the very top, and we can really focus on Innovation Junkie as well, being that Cadre is the venture capital side of things. So what really led you in the very beginning, as far as a specific problem, to founding Innovation Junkie?
Yeah, it's really an interesting story. In about 2013, I had been with my company for, almost 20 years, 17, 18 years at that time. And I started exploring in our own community. So I'm based in Arkansas.
Okay.
Arkansas is a relatively rural state with two different metropolitan areas, one in central Arkansas where I physically am located, and one up in northwest Arkansas where my business partners are located. And so I started looking at how do we really build out a venture ecosystem in my own community. And that led me to start a first fund called Cadre Creek Capital, and also led me to start an entrepreneurial support organization called The Conductor. And I partnered with Jeff Amorine, my business partner up in Northwest Arkansas, who had a consulting company called Startup Junkie. And so we started doing venture ecosystem development and direct support for entrepreneurs across the state of Arkansas. And it was a funded model. We had funding from the state of Arkansas, from the U.S. Small Business Administration, from the University of Central Arkansas, the Arkansas Economic Development Commission, and others. And then together in 2000, we started that work together in 2016. And then in 2018, we started Cadre Capital Partners. Because of the work we were doing, we started having a lot of companies coming to us that didn't qualify for the funded services. Either they were not in the state of Arkansas, or they were in the state of Arkansas but were too large to qualify for those funded services from Startup Junkie Conductor. And they were coming to us and saying, hey, we need the same kinds of services, but we'll pay you for it. So we created a billable consulting firm called Innovation Junkie that works with clients all over the world. And so that's where I ended up spending the vast majority of my time. I have a team that focuses on the venture ecosystem development and the direct support to entrepreneurs. Jeff and I and Brett focus on Cadre Capital Partners, and then I focus on Innovation Junkie. So about three different entities here going around working on really trying to drive innovation and entrepreneurship and the investment side of that as well.
Incredible. So being that your main focus is on Innovation Junkie there, walk us through a bit here, Jeff, of how Innovation Junkie has really evolved since you first started. So from who you serve and what you're providing, how's that changed?
Yep. Our very first client was Arkansas Children's Hospital, one of the top 5 children's hospitals in the country. And they came to us to basically help us develop an innovation culture there in the system. They had a research institute that was primarily doing contract research, and they wanted to get into more of the world of technology commercialization. So we spent about 3 years working with them. We started having other clients coming to us saying they really needed assistance in strategic growth, helping them chart a path to strategic growth, which might involve some innovation. It might involve some strategic growth planning. It might involve some organizational transformation work. And my doctorate really deals in leadership and organizational transformation. So we started taking on those clients as well. And then over the course of the last couple of years, we have perfected a diagnostic instrument called the Growth DX, which really helps organizations pinpoint their performance against about 75 different best practices that contribute to driving sustained strategic growth that fall into about 7 different diagnostic categories or diagnostic domains. And so we've begun using that as really the foot in the door
Mm.
to help these organizations assess their strategic growth capabilities and their strategic growth potential. And then we build our roadmaps and engagements around that.
Amazing. Amazing. So with that being said, walk us through a bit more of when you see a client come to you at Innovation Junkie, what is everything that they can expect to be offered? So obviously
Sure.
you're providing that consulting side, but
Yep.
how's it structured for your clients when they come to you?
Yeah. So oftentimes clients come to us and they say, I just need some innovation work. I need you to help us disrupt the status quo and maybe do some new ideation around products and services. Or they may come to us and say, in fact, I was on the phone with a gentleman today and 150 employees in the company. And he said, I just need some help moving my leadership team along. My leadership team, they've been here for years. They've grown up here. They don't have any experience outside the company. And I need to mature my executive team. They may come to us and say, we're a mess. We just need a complete transformation and we don't know where to start. And so there are a variety of ways that they come to us. And similar to when a person walks into a doctor's office and they self-diagnose, they say, hey, doctor, I've got green stuff coming out my nose. I need an antibiotic. The good doctor will say, you may be exactly right. That may be precisely what you need, but I would prefer to step back and do a little bit of an assessment. Let me look in your ears. Let me look in your nose. Let me take your temperature. Let me draw some blood. And so we do that now with our Growth DX. We say, you know what? You may be exactly right. You may need exactly what you've asked me for. But my experience is let me put a diagnostic instrument in front of your leadership team. Let each of your leadership team members respond to that diagnostic interest assessment and to evaluate the company on 75 best practices across 7 different diagnostic domains. We'll do that all anonymously. I'll roll all of that up and conduct a detailed analysis of those responses. I'll identify your strengths areas and your opportunities for strategic growth. I'll identify the gaps and the potential weaknesses and the potential impediments. And I'll put together a roadmap, a suggested roadmap for you that you can then take and implement with me if you want, or if you say, I like the diagnostic, but I really don't like that Standridge guide, no harm, no foul. You take it to another consultant and work with them to implement it or implement it yourself. And an engagement from us is usually a minimum of a 12-month engagement. Doesn't have to be, but it usually is. And it could be everything from helping you build your leadership team and institute what we call a culture of excellence. So we've identified about 6 elements that contribute to creating a culture of excellence within organizations, a culture that really facilitates sustained strategic growth.
Yep.
It can be an innovation exercise on the front end to help disrupt the status quo. It could be just some CEO advisory services that we do for a number of private equity and venture firms as well. So our services are tailored to what it is that you need as a result of the diagnostic instrument that we've implemented with you.
Incredible. Incredible. So what are you seeing work best right now, Jeff, for the acquisition, getting new clients in the door? Is it more of referrals and word of mouth that you're utilizing to get those new clients, or ads, social media, organic? What does that look like from the outside?
So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and that drives quite a bit of traffic. I usually have a post, if not every day, one fairly frequently, and it's usually an educational post. It might be about leadership, it might be about culture, it might be about operational effectiveness, innovation, et cetera. We also have an SDR that works with us, a sales development rep that works with us that books meetings for me to be able to basically pitch the growth diagnostic. And I tell them all when I get on these calls, I usually have, I don't know, half a dozen calls a week, maybe 10. And I'm telling those clients, hey, look, I'm not going to try to sell you anything. I'm going to show you how we go about diagnosing your company. If we find an opportunity to work together, you feel good about it, I feel good about it, we work together. If we don't, maybe you don't find an opportunity, or maybe I don't find an opportunity, we're going to part as friends, no harm, no foul. And that's really the crux of our selling process.
Amazing. So on that front, you just mentioned you have the SDR, and then it's yourself. Is it just you guys running the show on the innovation?
Running on the sales side, it is. Now I've got other consultants that work with us that I bring in to help, or sometimes to run an engagement, depending on what the need is. But in terms of the sales and marketing, I'm the chief growth officer, if you will, and in terms of my skill set, having run North American sales teams for several years, and I run that end of it.
He's
And
amazing.
I
So
run most of the engagements.
I love it. I love it. On that front, what can you point to as a bottleneck for growth right now, whether that be quality lead generation or being able to deliver with your current capacity or convert clients? How does that look right now on the bottleneck side?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, what I would say is lead generation and qualification for those meetings is always something that we work on getting better at. Then the meetings are usually very quick discovery meetings. Those go very well. No one ever wants to make a decision in the moment. So there's always, hey, yeah, let me talk about it with my leadership team and with my partner. And so that means then a second follow-up meeting. So making sure that I'm disciplined in getting that meeting scheduled before I end the first meeting and getting it on the calendar. And so then just the time associated with that. And because in a professional services business like Innovation Junkie, people are buying me. They're buying, and when I say me, they're buying the consultant that goes through the diagnosis with them and lays out a potential roadmap, builds trust with them in that capacity, relies and relays information from prior engagements and brings expertise to the table. That's what they're buying. It's not going to be a situation where I go hire a sales rep and the sales rep sells the engagement, but really can't deliver it because he doesn't have the expertise and then kicks it over the wall. That's just not the way a professional services organization works. So I'm perfecting the selling process, and then I will be basically taking that selling process to our other consultants and helping them refine their selling process using something like this. And that's our plan for scaling.
Love it. I absolutely love that. So it's clear as day that you have a nice picture here. So talk to me a bit of really your vision, right? What are you focused on top priority wise over the next 6 to 12 months, Jeff, and really being able to grow Innovation Junkie? Do you have any specific target goals or impact goals or revenue targets? What does that look like?
Yeah, really, it's more what I would consider implementation goals, right? We have a relatively new consultant that has joined us. He's just retired from the military. He taught economics at the military academy, and he's a retired general. And so bringing him along in our method, the kind of the Innovation Junkie way of doing engagements and the work that we do. He's already very skilled, obviously, and bringing him on and getting him up to speed, full speed in running his own engagements is one. The other thing is that we have developed a new in the selling space. People would call it a downsell opportunity, right?
Yep.
Most of our engagements are going to run somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000 a year, and they're going to produce multiples of that in return. And I can point to the multiples of that in return. But that's just too much for some folks. And I get that. And so we have a new peer advisory group concept that we're launching this year called the Strategic Growth Forums. And Strategic Growth Forums, you may be familiar with C12, Vistage, CEO forum, CEO advisory boards. They all have elements of one another in them, but our strategic growth forum it takes a little bit of that, but is really specific to the work that we do on innovation, strategic growth, revenue velocity, et cetera. And it's a 15 to 18 person group maximum, probably 12 to 18 is even better. And they meet once a month for a day. And they all sign NDAs. They're non-competitive. They have to be a decision maker in the company, generally a C-suite type of person. And they come together and dissect their businesses in front of each other and solve problems and receive training and ongoing support and provide that support to one another. And I lead a couple of those groups, and my colleagues lead a group or two each. And so we're rolling those out this year.
Incredible. So just continuing to add to what you're doing, keep that quality coming on,
That's
and
right.
providing as much as possible for your clients. I love every bit of that. So getting a little bit hypothetical here for our listeners, Jeff, if you had a genie, snapped our fingers, and you have unlimited resources at your fingertips, what is something that you're implementing immediately for the growth of Innovation Junkie?
It would be scaling the selling process and scaling the strategic growth forums. We could run those strategic growth forums worldwide And with very minimal fanfare, when we found the right person, a full-time person could run 4 strategic growth forums at a time. And we have the process for those forums. We have the agenda for those forums. We have the methodology for those forums. So it would be scaling the selling process to fill up those strategic growth forums as quickly as we could. And then running the deeper engagements for the companies that need and want more one-on-one types of work.
I love it. So, as far as your opinion on this side of things go, how do you personally feel about the consulting industry as a whole evolving in the coming years? And what are you doing to really position Innovation Junkie at the forefront of that evolution?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting dynamic because in most consulting agencies, you bring in a more junior consultant, maybe a young MBA, someone with some specific industry experience, but they're 5 years into their career, and you leverage them for a lot of the research and analysis and report creation and the intellectual property work that you use in your engagements. And to be honest, a portion of that can be supported by AI now. And I've been working with some custom GPTs and some other AI agents to standardize some of the analysis that we do and some of the roadmap development. And it's never going to get, I say never's, my dad used to say never's a long time. And so I don't see it getting to the 100% level anytime soon, but I could see it fairly quickly getting to the 75% level. And so that means that, and I'll just show you some examples of some of the work that I've done, is some things that used to take me 4 hours to do, I can do it in about an hour.
Yeah.
And so basically what that means is I've still got to put my eyes on it. I've still got to put my expertise on it, but I don't have to start with a blank page. I can respond to something that's 50, 70% there versus literally starting from ground zero and building that analysis up. And I think that's going to be a significant growth opportunity for consulting firms, particularly management consulting firms.
Absolutely. So I want to go into a bit of a lightning round here before we close out for our listeners. This has been incredible so far. Just the level of passion and enthusiasm you have, Jeff, it's clear as day. You're so successful, have all these businesses, doing what you're able to do. So as far as a tool or resource goes, maybe it's something from your past or from the VC firm or just a strategy you're using in the consulting right now. But what's just been a game changer so far for Innovation Junkie?
So there is a company out there that I actually am an early stage investor in called Oxygen, AUXIGEN.ai, AUXIGEN.ai. So think of oxygen as being vital for life. The O word oxygen, think about the AUX word oxygen as being auxiliary and generative AI. So taking some tools that should be auxiliary to you and powering them with generative AI. And imagine 20 to 30 of the best business frameworks out there, consulting and business frameworks, and imagine those being the AI being trained on those frameworks so that you can apply those frameworks in your business directly. It doesn't have to be a consultant. You can actually be a founder or an entrepreneur or a business executive. And you can build a brand kit for your company trained on StoryBrand, for instance, or trained on some of the top business frameworks that are out there and apply that to your business. It's really revolutionary. I'd encourage you and any of your listeners to check it out. But it's a company that I've early invested in, and I'm using it on a day-to-day basis as well.
Incredible, incredible. And as far as advice goes, I would love to hear, Jeff, especially with how much experience you have, what's the best piece of advice that you have personally received about scaling a business as you've seen so much success in?
Do what won't scale and get good at it, and then figure out how to scale it. If you're always thinking about 100% scalability, you will never get to implementation. You will constantly be tweaking. So, 75% is the new perfect. 80% is the new perfect. Get out there. Don't worry so much about scaling it. Get it out there. Get it in front of your customers. Start running the process. Get feedback. Refine it from there. Then figure out how to scale it.
Incredible. And then last question for you, just to wrap us up here. what is a piece of advice, Jeff, that you can give to our listeners? So other founders, entrepreneurs, business owners, either just starting out or really in it like you are, but really want to have that passion and succeed like you're seeing right now. What can you offer them before you wrap up?
Don't confuse sales with delivery.
Mm.
Nothing happens until somebody sells something. I'm not suggesting that you go out there and sell things that you can't deliver, but don't get so caught up on confusing sales with it. You get a client and start serving that client and start adding value to that client, and then refine your delivery processes from there. Nothing happens till somebody sells something. So you as a founder, if you don't build your sales skills and you don't get out there and start selling your wares and selling your capabilities, whether it's software, hardware, a device, or expertise, nobody's going to sell your stuff like you can sell your stuff.
Love
Acquire
it.
those skills.
Absolutely incredible. With that right there, that is going to wrap up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. Jeff, just want to thank you again. An incredible journey. It's clear as day that your passion drives you to some serious heights and successes. So thank you so much for joining us on the show and sharing your insights with us today. To our listeners, if you did enjoy this episode, which I know so many of you have, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also follow Jeff on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Jeff Standridge. For more resources and insights, visit closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their growth through trained appointment setters and world-class marketing systems. Until then, keep climbing, and we'll see you on the next one.